Welcome to a journey through time, where power, passion, and perseverance collide. Today, we're diving into the extraordinary lives of history's most powerful women, leaders, warriors, innovators, and trailblazers who changed the world forever. From the majestic palaces of ancient Egypt to the battlefields of France, these women defied the odds and left their indelible marks on history. Get ready to be inspired by the true stories of courage, intellect, and determination. Cleopatra VII, often remembered as one of history's most captivating figures, was much more than just a queen defined by her beauty. Born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra became the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt at a time when the Roman Empire was rapidly expanding. Fluent in several languages, she was the only Ptolemaic ruler to learn Egyptian, which she used to align herself with her people. Her intelligence, political acumen, and strategic alliances made her a formidable leader. Cleopatra's relationships with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony were not merely romantic, they were deeply political. She saw these alliances as essential to maintaining Egypt's independence from Rome. Her love affair with Antony, in particular, became legendary, leading to a tragic downfall. After their combined forces were defeated by Octavian, who later became Augustus Caesar, Cleopatra chose to die by suicide rather than be paraded as a trophy in Rome. Her death marked the end of the Ptolemaic kingdom and the beginning of Egypt as a Roman province. Cleopatra's legacy lives on as a symbol of a woman who wielded immense power and used her wit, charm, and intellect to navigate a male-dominated world. Elizabeth I of England, also known as the Virgin Queen, ascended the throne at a time of deep religious and political turmoil. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, was executed when Elizabeth was just 2 years old, and she spent much of her early life under suspicion, even imprisoned in the Tower of London by her half-sister, Queen Mary I. Despite these challenges, Elizabeth became one of England's most effective and beloved rulers. Her reign, known as the Elizabethan era, was marked by the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, a victory that established England as a major naval power. Elizabeth skillfully managed her court, using her unmarried status to keep European powers at bay and maintain peace. Culturally, her reign saw the flourishing of English drama, most notably the works of William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. Elizabeth was known for her intelligence, political shrewdness, and her ability to inspire loyalty among her subjects. She famously declared she was married to England, a stance that allowed her to maintain control over her realm without the complications of a royal consort. Elizabeth's reign left an indelible mark on English history, shaping the nation's identity for generations to come. Catherine the Great, originally born as Princess Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst in what is now Poland, became one of Russia's most renowned and longest-reigning rulers. She came to power after a coup that deposed her husband, Peter III, who was seen as incompetent and unpopular. Catherine quickly established herself as a strong and effective leader, ushering in a period of expansion and modernization in Russia. Catherine was a patron of the arts and a student of the Enlightenment. She corresponded with some of the greatest thinkers of her time, including Voltaire and Diderot, and attempted to implement their ideas within her vast empire. Under her rule, Russia expanded its borders significantly, claiming territories in the Crimea, Poland, and along the Black Sea. She reformed the Russian government, improved its administration, and sought to bring Western ideas and culture to Russia. Despite her enlightened ideals, Catherine faced numerous challenges, including several uprisings, the most famous being Pugachev's rebellion, which she brutally suppressed. Her personal life, filled with love affairs and palace intrigues, often overshadowed her political achievements, but she remains one of history's most formidable female rulers. Catherine's reign not only transformed Russia into a major European power but also left a legacy of cultural and intellectual enrichment that shaped the future of the Russian state. Queen Victoria, whose reign from 1837 to 1901 marked an era of unprecedented change and expansion for the British Empire, became a symbol of stability and continuity in a rapidly evolving world. She ascended the throne at the age of 18, following the death of her uncle, William IV. During her 63-year reign, the British Empire expanded to become the largest empire in history, with territories spanning every continent. The Victorian era, named after her, was characterized by significant industrial progress, including the development of the railway system, advances in manufacturing, and the rise of the middle class. It was also a period of social reform, with movements aimed at improving labor conditions, expanding education, and advancing women's rights. Queen Victoria herself was a strong advocate of the moral values of the time, emphasizing duty, family, and respectability. Victoria married her cousin, Prince Albert, and their partnership was one of mutual respect and deep affection. Together, they had 9 children, who married into various European royal families, earning Victoria the nickname, the Grandmother of Europe. After Albert's death in 1861, Victoria mourned deeply, wearing black for the rest of her life and withdrawing from public view, which led to a period of political instability known as the Victoria's widowhood. However, her later years saw a resurgence of public affection, and she became a beloved figurehead of the British Empire. Victoria's reign left a lasting legacy on the British monarchy, shaping the modern Commonwealth and influencing the political landscape of Europe. Joan of Arc, a teenage peasant girl from the small village of Domremy in France, rose from obscurity to become a national heroine and a Catholic saint. Born in 1412 during the Hundred Years' War between France and England, Joan claimed to have received visions from saints instructing her to support Charles VII and help drive the English out of France. Despite her humble origins and the skepticism of those around her, Joan managed to secure an audience with Charles, who was desperate for a miracle to save his faltering cause. Charles, impressed by her conviction, granted her command of an army. At just 17 years old, Joan led French troops to a crucial victory at the Siege of Orléans, a turning point in the war that boosted French morale and solidified her reputation as the Maid of Orléans. Her presence inspired her soldiers, and she became a symbol of hope and divine favor for the French people. However, Joan's success drew the ire of the English and their Burgundian allies, who captured her in 1430. After a politically motivated trial, she was convicted of heresy and burned at the stake at the age of 19. Joan's death only enhanced her legend, and she was eventually canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church in 1920. Today, Joan of Arc is remembered not only as a military leader but as a symbol of courage, faith, and the power of an individual to change the course of history. Her story continues to resonate as an example of unwavering conviction in the face of overwhelming odds. Marie Curie, born Maria Sklodowska in Warsaw, Poland, in 1867, overcame significant barriers to become one of the most renowned scientists in history. At a time when women were largely excluded from the scientific community, Curie's brilliance and determination allowed her to break through these barriers and achieve groundbreaking discoveries. After moving to Paris to study at the Sorbonne, she met and married fellow scientist Pierre Curie, with whom she conducted much of her early research. The Curies discovered 2 new elements: polonium, named after Marie's homeland, and radium, pioneering the study of radioactivity, a term coined by Marie herself. Their work laid the foundation for significant advances in medical treatments, including the development of X-ray technology and cancer therapies. In 1903, Marie and Pierre shared the Nobel Prize in Physics with Henri Becquerel for their work on radioactivity. After Pierre's tragic death in 1906, Marie continued their research, eventually earning a second Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911 for her discovery of radium and polonium, making her the first person to win 2 Nobel Prizes. Marie Curie's contributions to science were not without personal cost. Her prolonged exposure to radioactive materials ultimately led to her death in 1934 from aplastic anemia. Despite this, her legacy lives on in the scientific community, inspiring generations of women to pursue careers in science and challenging the notion that certain fields are out of reach based on gender. Marie Curie's name is synonymous with scientific excellence, perseverance, and the pursuit of knowledge against all odds. Indira Gandhi, the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, was born into a life of political prominence and public service. She grew up amidst the tumult of India's struggle for independence and was deeply influenced by her father's vision for a modern, secular India. After Nehru's death, Indira rose through the ranks of the Indian National Congress and eventually became Prime Minister in 1966, making her the first and, so far, only woman to hold the office. Indira Gandhi's tenure as Prime Minister was marked by significant achievements and considerable controversy. She launched the Green Revolution, which transformed India from a food-deficient country to one of the world's leading agricultural producers. This initiative helped alleviate famine and improve food security across the nation. However, her decision to impose a state of emergency from 1975 to 1977, which suspended civil liberties, censored the press, and led to mass arrests of political opponents, remains a deeply controversial chapter in Indian history. This period, known as the Emergency, tarnished her image and led to her temporary ousting from power in 1977. Despite the controversy, Indira Gandhi returned to power in 1980, only to face growing internal strife, including the rise of Sikh separatism in Punjab. Her decision to order Operation Blue Star, a military crackdown on Sikh militants holed up in the Golden Temple, led to widespread violence and alienated many within the Sikh community. This act ultimately led to her assassination in 1984 by her Sikh bodyguards, an event that triggered anti-Sikh riots across India. Indira Gandhi's legacy is complex. She is remembered as a strong leader who contributed significantly to India's development, but also as a polarizing figure whose decisions had lasting consequences. Margaret Thatcher, known as the Iron Lady, was one of the most influential and controversial political figures of the 20th century. Born in 1925 to a grocer's family in Grantham, England, she rose to prominence in a male-dominated political landscape, becoming the leader of the Conservative Party in 1975 and the first woman to serve as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in 1979. Thatcher's premiership was characterized by her strong, uncompromising approach to governance. She believed in free market principles, privatization of state-owned industries, and reducing the power of trade unions, which she saw as stifling economic growth. Her economic policies, known as Thatcherism, aimed to reduce government intervention in the economy and promote individual entrepreneurship. While these policies led to economic recovery and revitalization in some sectors, they also caused significant social upheaval, particularly in industrial regions where unemployment soared. Internationally, Thatcher was a staunch ally of the United States, particularly during the Cold War, and she played a key role in supporting U.S. policies that sought to contain Soviet influence. Her tough stance against the Soviet Union earned her the nickname, the Iron Lady, a title she embraced. Thatcher also demonstrated her resolve during the Falklands War in 1982, when she led Britain to victory against Argentina, reinforcing her image as a determined and patriotic leader. Thatcher's legacy remains deeply divisive. While she is credited with transforming Britain's economy and restoring its global influence, her policies also widened the gap between the rich and poor and dismantled many of the traditional industries that had sustained communities for generations. After resigning in 1990, Thatcher remained a powerful figure in British politics, and her influence can still be seen in the policies of subsequent governments. Love her or loathe her, Margaret Thatcher's impact on Britain and the world is undeniable. Eleanor Roosevelt, born in 1884 into a wealthy and politically connected family, transformed the role of First Lady from a largely ceremonial position into one of active political engagement and social advocacy. As the wife of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, she served as First Lady of the United States from 1933 to 1945, during some of the nation's most challenging times, including the Great Depression and World War II. Eleanor was deeply involved in humanitarian efforts and became a vocal advocate for civil rights, women's rights, and the rights of the poor. She held regular press conferences, wrote a daily newspaper column called My Day, and traveled extensively, often visiting impoverished areas and reporting back to the president. Her activism extended beyond the United States. She was a staunch supporter of the United Nations and played a pivotal role in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was adopted in 1948. This document, which Eleanor referred to as her greatest achievement, set a global standard for human rights and remains one of the most important international agreements in history. After FDR's death in 1945, Eleanor continued her public service, becoming a U.S. delegate to the United Nations, where she chaired the Human Rights Commission. She was known for her ability to navigate complex international politics and build consensus among diverse groups. Throughout her life, Eleanor faced personal challenges, including a difficult marriage and struggles with self-esteem, but she used her platform to empower others, particularly women and minorities. Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy as the First Lady of the world is one of compassion, leadership, and relentless advocacy for justice. Her efforts helped shape the modern human rights movement and left a lasting impact on both American and global politics. Today, she is celebrated not only as a pioneering First Lady but as a champion of equality and human dignity. Hatshepsut's reign was marked by peace, prosperity, and impressive achievements. She expanded Egypt's trade networks, most notably with the land of Punt, a region believed to be in modern-day Somalia, from which she brought back wealth in the form of gold, myrrh, and exotic animals. She also commissioned numerous building projects, including her famous mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, considered one of the architectural wonders of ancient Egypt. Hatshepsut's reign was a time of cultural renaissance, with advancements in art, architecture, and technology. Despite her successful reign, after her death, attempts were made to erase her from history. Thutmose III, who succeeded her, ordered the defacement of her monuments and the removal of her name from official records, possibly to legitimize his own rule and restore the traditional male line of succession. For centuries, Hatshepsut was forgotten, but modern archaeology has brought her story to light, revealing her as one of the most capable and innovative rulers of ancient Egypt. Hatshepsut's legacy is one of resilience, leadership, and the ability to transcend traditional gender roles to maintain stability and prosperity in a male-dominated society. Her story challenges our understanding of power dynamics in ancient civilizations and serves as an enduring symbol of female authority and accomplishment. These incredible women shattered barriers, led empires, and redefined what it means to be powerful. Their stories continue to inspire and remind us that greatness knows no bounds, whether by time, place, or gender. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of the people who shaped our world. And remember, every great story leaves a legacy. What will yours be?